afternoon, everybody. I'm Winston Kelly, the Executive Director at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and we're delighted to have one of our members of the 2015 class of the NASCAR Hall of Fame and representatives of another of our 2015 class, of course, talking about 1960 champion Rex White and the trailblazer Wendell Scott. We've got his two sons, or two of his sons, Franklin on the far right, your far left, and Wendell Jr. in the middle, to take a few questions about their induction into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And Rex, let's start with you. You know, when you came down to the Hall of Fame on Wednesday, was your expectation, did you feel like this was your year, or that it might be another year or so? And what's been your thoughts over the last few days?
No idea. Didn't have no idea I'd go in this year. Totally surprised.
So what was your initial reaction when Brian France called your name?
Well, I was so surprised. I really didn't have much to say. It's just so great to be inducted into the Hall of Fame with so many people that's already in and the people that's eligible to go in. So it's a big honor for me to be even thought about in it.
Franklin, Wendell, same question for you. Your father's name was the second one called, and there was an entire row that jumped up in jubilations. What were your initial reactions and thoughts?
Thanks, Winston. Close. Like I was sharing with you earlier in a candid moment, it was a perpetual glee inside of my heart that is yet to subside. You know, I'm sort of a laid-back type person, not that excitable. But let me tell you, this excited me tremendously, and it continues to be so. And I had so many mixed emotions, like Rex, for instance. You know, there's so many people that we raced with and are so deeply embedded in our lives, went in at the same time. That was like a driver's Hall of Fame, and I started remembering laps, different races. If we just could have got by Rex, because Frank and I used to plan race strategies and by position. Like Tom Higgins was sharing about how we would try to get a better finish just for $10 extra, because it meant shoes for one of the girls or extra grocery money for mom. So all of those things sort of just imploded in my mind, and all of them were happy moments. I've never been so happy in my life, and it's all about Dad and Mommy, because whispering that Daddy was in when we got back home, and her smile, and we were just talking about that. Mom has a constant smile, albeit health-wise. She's, you know, not that livid right now, but just the whole thing is just, it's bigger than life.
Franklin, it was a big deal last year when a monument was put up at the shop, at the house for your father. The reaction from Danville and where this stacks up.
Danville is so excited. Everywhere we go, people are yelling out the window, "Congratulations!" We can't go in the store. We're getting calls. I was saying, I thought your cell phone was sort of private. Everybody's got your cell number now, you know. But I thought about at that moment, it was like, I asked my father. I said, when he got injured at Talladega, I said, "Dad, what did it when he got hit, that violent crash he got?" I said, "How did it feel?" He said, the best way he could describe it was like when you see one of these tall buildings dynamited and you go down. He said, so it was like that. In my mind, you know, when it was announced the other night, it was like I had like a panoramic view of everything that has happened in our life leading up to that moment. You know, traveling through the South, you know, going through inspection, having to strategize, getting the car ready, working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, My father would say, y'all go in the house and get you a couple hours sleep and get back out here. You know, and I think about when did he sleep? You know, so it's so much involved. It's hard to really explain it other than, you know, just to say we're grateful to everyone who had a part in getting him inducted in the Hall of Fame. We're grateful to God. We're grateful to all the support we've had across the thousands and thousands of people who have supported us and have reached out to each one of us individually.
And we're glad to be joined by Sybil Scott, one of Wendell's daughters. And good news is with the big crowd. The bad news is got caught in traffic a little bit. Sybil, over the last few days, has it sunk in? And what are your immediate thoughts about your dad going into the Hall of Fame?
I think it's sunk in. Maybe later I might say differently, but my overall feeling is naturally of gratitude, and I feel that it being done in my mom's lifetime is more than we could ask. That means so much to me, and that, like my brothers and others who have helped Daddy so much over the years to get to the point that he did get to, I feel them, along with the fans who have offered us so much support and are still supporting us, that this is for all of them. You know, my brothers that could have excelled further athletically and chose to stand by Daddy. You know, that means an awful lot, and I often think of it, of their sacrifices, and I'm glad that they're able to witness this day. That would mean the world to my father. My sister Deborah, especially, who scored every lap, so many laps. It's important that, because we're not necessarily spring chickens anymore, so that we are here to witness it, realize this dream. I think that's very special. But especially for the fans and for Mommy, you know, this one's for them, and I'm truly grateful to everybody that had a part in it. You know, I'm grateful that the people who were on the voting panel saw to it to make sure that this dream was realized, that they opened their hearts and minds and obviously did the research over the years. I can honestly tell you, I'm looking at people now who ask me, why did I feel Daddy deserved to be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame? And they actually said things to me like some of you said to me that you were doing your research. And I appreciate you having done your research, and I appreciate that you came to the end that you did.
Before we open it up for questions, you know, I've learned so much. I used to think I knew a lot about NASCAR until I got into this job. Rex, a lot of people here, probably like me, started covering racing, you know, within the last 20 or 30 years. Give them a little bit of a background of what got you involved in racing.
Well, I worked in a gas station, and a guy come by, wanted to put a poster in the window advertising stock car racing on Friday night. So I looked at that sign probably for a month or longer, and finally got up enough money to go to a race. And the first stock car that I ever seen go around the racetrack, I said, that's what I want to do. And I set out to get in the pits and learn more about it. So they had a board fence that run boards straight up and down. So I went and got a hammer and took a board off, and I fixed it so I could go in every week and get in the pits. And I met Frankie Schneider, and I started helping him, and later on went to work for him, and that kicked my racing career off.
Same question for any one of the Scott family. What was the impetus that got Wendell involved in wanting to race?
Well, first of all, obviously he was a risk taker. You know, he was always daring. He was a mechanical engineer with no formal education. He was a gifted mechanic. If he needed a tool he didn't have, he'd make it. He loved speed. He was a daredevil. And the story's been told about how he had a local promoter sought him out to try to attract more African Americans to the races, and went to the police station to find out who were the fast drivers were around town. And it was alleged that my father had a side profession that entailed a lot of speed, and but he also had gotten a lot of tickets, and so his name came up, and they approached him. So I don't know if I answered the question or not.
And had a lot of perseverance. Got time for some questions here from folks here. We'll start with these two over here, and then Mike.
Mike Embry, USA Today. Franklin, did you guys have a desire to try to follow your dad into driving, or any opportunity for that at all?
Actually, my brother did. My brother did a race, and I'll let him tell you about that. But we always, had a desire to drive. Our lives took different paths, and we did different things as far as responsibilities with the racing team. But my brother actually, and he can tell you about his driving experience, but he did race.
Yeah, so many answers I want to give before the questions are asked, but that one in particular, quickly I'll add that Daddy used to, a lot of people don't know, but he used to go to the local speedway and had a little colored section, if you will, that held maybe 25, 30 people. And he and one of his teammates in that business that my brother alluded to, they would go and watch the races. And the great late Billy Miles and Ted Swain and Shorty York and those guys were running down there. And Daddy just said that he sit there in them stands and he developed a competition in his mind, albeit they were terrific drivers, as Rex or Frank or Sybil could tell you. Right then, Daddy said, I can beat them. And he'd never driven a race car. So that's what I wanted to add about that. But yeah, I had the opportunity, and the way it happened for me, he planned it. I had no idea that he planned it. He always knew Frankie and I would drive, like Frankie used to warm the car up and stuff. So we had a high driving aptitude. He knew about our driving skills. He just couldn't afford to let us race. But one night in Columbia, South Carolina, he had qualified the car way up front, somewhere near Bobby Allison or Buddy Baker, somebody, a couple of frightening people to me. And he walked up to me, had his uniform on. Frank and I were sitting up the pits. And he said, brother, he called, that's my pet name for Daddy. He said, brother, you think that other uniform in the truck will fit you? I said, sir. And right then, my heart started pounding because I knew what he was saying. Mommy was with us, Columbia, South Carolina. She was standing on top of the hauler, the big hauler that we gotten from Petty. And he said, boy, go put that uniform on. And that was my first of, I'm not sure, 11, 12 races. I drove some races where I did part-time with him. But, and I got to where I was pretty good. As a matter of fact, so much so until when Daddy got hurt at Talladega, we still had our 71 Torino. And he called me up to the hospital one day, and he said, brother, you need to go over to the shop, get that car ready. He said, find out what you had to do. You know how to do it. And I said, Dad, what are you talking about? He said, well, I've called 3 tracks in Pennsylvania. That's when they were running the Grand Touring cars with the Cup cars. He said, get that car ready. And he said, go pick up Wild Horse, who was one of his friends from the day. And he was a great driver and hauled the race car. And Frankie was too busy to go on that longer trip. So I went up there, and it was a dirt. The first track was Sealing Grove, Pennsylvania. And a guy came to me, I think well, I won't call his name, but he was racing for points. So he said, if you let me start your car, make 1 lap, he said, I'll give you a set of dirt track knobbits. Dirt track knobbits were the ones that they cut deep into some awesome tires. It's a great picture of me standing beside the car with those tires on it. But long story short, right there, I had enough rubber to make the races up while I was in Pennsylvania. So I did fair that night, fair meaning I didn't wreck the car. And another thing I'll quickly add is Daddy never talked to me about wrecking the race car. I'm probably one of the few drivers that ever drove a race car that couldn't wreck it. And that's the truth. Elmo Langley saved me one night going into number 3. I got all out of shape and knocked him over the spank. And he told me after the race, he said, "Glad I could help, Junior." So, but anyway, that's what I did. And then I ended up running Hickory, some of the more famed tracks, and I got an 11th place finish in Hickory, and Daddy was proud. He went around teasing guys. He would tease, and Daddy was a jokester. He said, "Why don't y'all let my son drive that car? He could really help," stuff like that. And so I got to drive, and I wish it were known by more people, but it's not about me. It's about Daddy. It's about the Wendell Scott family. It's about the NASCAR family. It's about friends like Rex White and us, because we truly are friends. So Wendell Jr. would like to be recognized, but not at this time. This is my dad's Hall of Fame minute.
Right. Okay, got one here, and then Al.
Yeah, George Diaz with the Orlando Sentinel. For any of the Scott family right here, members of the Scott family, how do you think your dad would have reacted to this moment and this honor, given the obvious challenges that he went through while driving in the era that he did?
I think that the Daddy that I knew would initially have been very emotional, very humble, naturally humble, obviously very grateful. And I think that he would have wanted to share this moment with as many people as he could who had been a part of his struggles. I think that he would be very grateful to everyone who had a part in making the decision. And I think that he would enjoy the camaraderie with the fellow inductees. And I think that Daddy would express some gratitude to NASCAR. I know they get a lot of negative comments, but at the same time, as my mother always said, they did provide the platform for him to do what he loved to do and to be able to put food on the table, irregardless to what that era was, a sign of the times. The type of person that Daddy was, he wouldn't be walking around letting the bitterness have any role in what's going on right now.
Well said. Al?
Yeah, Rex, I noticed you ran in the first World 600 here. When you saw they were going to run a race for 600 miles, what immediately went through your head? Because you qualified well, you finished 6th. But that was the longest race you'd ever obviously been in?
You're correct, but about 6 weeks before I seen that race, when I come by here and seen that racetrack, I didn't think they was going to have a race, but they made it. Matter of fact, I said there won't be a race, and I got reprimanded for saying that because Curtis got on me, and then also Bill France Sr. But it was a rough start for him. The pavement was, it didn't have the second coat of blacktop. It went through the gravel. I run 3 windshields. I put 2 windshields on top of the windshield that normally comes in the car. And so much gravel hit it and splattered my windshield. I couldn't hardly see out at the end. But it was a very rough race. And that extra 100 miles, it really makes a lot of difference in making it through the race.
If you hadn't seen this piece on Fox Sports 1 that Rex was a part of that summarizes the evolution of the track, go back and look at that when they replay it. He does a good job of describing that and then what it's evolved to. Question over here.
Yeah. Barry Richmond, Piedmont Broadcasting Corporation. For the Scott family, I know Sybil the other day, and as you just said a few moments ago, that Wendell was a very emotional individual. What would you say was the high point as a driver and then after he concluded his career as a driver, as far as an emotional high, out of racing and then while he was a driver?
I would say that it was the win, even though it didn't go the way that it should have, the way that he would have wanted it to, and even though he left us with filling of a slight void there, I would think with it being at his highest level of racing, to know that he had won that would be his highest point. I would have to also include what might be unexpected, for me to be feeling, is that people that he care about, that he care about him, were able to be a part of all of that, and to just see him succeed as far as being a full-time driver. I think that that the fact that he was able to be obviously known for being a genius of a mechanic, even though those are things that he may not have talked about, I think those were highs. He had to work on his own cars, so with that, being a mechanic, to me, enters the picture. I feel that from the standpoint of when they did Grease Lightning, and Daddy felt that that was something that would be seen on a worldwide level, that was a high point, even though it wasn't racing itself. The movie came as a result of his accomplishments in racing.
Any other questions for the Scott family or Rex White? There's two here, and then we'll wrap it up. Deb, right here.
Deb Williams with RacingToday.com. Rex, did I see something the other night about you battling polio when you were a child?
Yeah, when I was 10 years old, I didn't have polio. I had infantile paralysis. They called it infantile paralysis then, but I did have polio. But I have a bad leg, which I got from that, but boy, I survived good. It was an epidemic then, and a lot of people wound up a lot worse off than I did.
Well, as a follow-up, how did you battle through that to become a race car driver?
Well, I really didn't let my leg bother me that much in anything that I went at, working on my feet a lot or anything. The only thing that I did in a race car, especially if it's a car that I drove all the time, is I fixed the throttle special, a little bit special to fit my foot. Other than that, I didn't change anything because I had polio.
Final question here.
This is for the Scott family. Sybil, you brought up the movie Grease Lightning. I was always curious what your dad thought of the movie and whether he enjoyed the portrayal and of that at that time.
I hope my brothers will speak on that as far as their interpretation goes as well. So I'll be brief. But I remember sitting with Daddy through one interview, and I have a copy of it, and that's one that I can say that he was quoted on correctly. He said that, first of all, he thought Richard Pryor did a great job, considering, that wasn't really the type of role that he would normally play. And I don't know. I'm going to pass it on to Franklin. I'm going to let them have a minute.
Well, I think that he was happy for that, for the movie and everything. I remember him saying to me that they cut, when they had to edit the movie, they cut so much good footage to get it down to 96 minutes. And he was some of the footage that he was hoping was going to be in the movie wasn't in the movie, which he had no control over that. But other than that, but I would be remiss if we left here today, and I didn't, and I know he don't want me to do this. But Rex White, I can remember him when he had some good sponsorship, I believe, at one time, didn't you, Rex? And he would let us have fenders, trunk lids, bumpers, things that he had taken off his car, and we'd go down and just load the pickup truck and then bring them back, and I would straighten the fenders out, and we would use them, paint them. Nobody ever knew the difference. He never, took any credit for it, but he helps us out during some crucial times with body parts for our race car. So when my brother mentioned that we have an affection for him, that goes back to that. So I would be remiss if I left here today and didn't give him that credit.
I'd like to say something about Wendell. Wendell, he's talking about getting excited. I don't think Wendell would, I never was around him when he got excited. But I'm going to say this, Wendell Scott, if he'd had the proper equipment, I believe would have been a winner a lot of times. He was good on dirt. He was even good on pavement. But Wendell didn't have the money or the proper equipment to get to the front.
I think that would be an appropriate note to end on. We've been around 65 years, and there's only 30 men that are in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. 2 of them represented here today, of course, the 1960 champion, Rex White, and also somebody who finished in the top 10 29+% of the time that he raced in the equipment that Rex was talking about, Wendell Scott. And I would be remiss if I didn't also say thanks for the 3 years of service that Wendell Scott gave us in the U.S. Army. Thanks a lot, gentlemen. And Sybil, thanks for being here. Y'all have a good rest of the Memorial Day weekend.